An example of something the region of Waterloo has done to decrease the total amount of greenhouse gases that are emitted from the region is develop a light rail transit system known as the ION. So the region of Waterloo is actually the smallest municipality in North America that has a light rail transit system. So light rail transit systems are fantastic for reducing climate change for a few reasons. So the ion is powered by electricity rather than an internal combustion motor. And so the benefit of that is that with a clean electricity grid feeding that electricity to the train, then the train has the potential to be nearly net zero in terms of its emissions, which is in alignment with a lot of the goals that different levels of government have for climate change. So, what this train does is it has the capacity to move way more people than, for example, a highway. So, a light rail vehicle can move, for example, at a ballpark, more than 8 times the number of people than can move through a single lane of a freeway at peak capacity. So, when you build light rail transit, you're moving people at a much more efficient rate and at a much less cost of fossil fuel emissions. So the light rail transit is all in all a climate win. And so that's an example of a mitigation action that the region undertook in order to, one, reduce the total amount of emissions that are coming from the transportation section of the region. But it also helps in more ways than you could think. When you build a light rail system, it takes drivers off the road, but it also lessens the amount of traffic for people that are still driving, so they're able to get to places more efficiently and use slash produce less greenhouse gases. So it helps the people that decide to take the train, but it also helps the people that decide to stay in their cars either way. Of this is that it's nearly impossible to participate in society without either driving or having enough money to have someone drive you everywhere. And so the outcome of this is that we have very inefficient land use where you might not live within a 15-minute walk of somewhere where you can get groceries, buy a coffee. And so this suburban sprawl is incredibly inefficient in terms of energy use, and a large amount of that energy is fossil fuel related energy. An example that I will compare transit-oriented development and light rail transit to would be Houston. So Houston keeps adding concentric rings of interstates and adding lanes to their interstates, and surprise, surprise, these keep getting filled by cars. So induced demand is a principle that if you build it, they will come. And so a lot of people like to joke, just one more lane, bro. Bro, one more lane. It'll fix it, I swear. And so these memes are accurate, a mixture of the political will and a lot of ingenuity from a planning perspective is what enabled Waterloo to be able to produce this train in a shorter amount of time and at a really good budget per kilometer.